If I do have them turned off, I'll turn them back on again. And I do it now, but yeah, I don't want to. As Galen will tell you, we've had problems. I've had problems with OBS this morning, stopping the stream, and so I've been chatting away and without noticing that OBS has actually crashed and hasn't been streaming. So I don't want to risk upsetting OBS now that it's behaving itself again by logging into my Twitch account, just in case. I do want to see it, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'll check whispers after I finish the stream, and if they're turned off, I'll turn them on. Maybe if you're back on, I stream every week, so if you're around and I'm streaming next week, then feel free to send it to me then, and I'll check it out. Or if, in the meantime, once I've turned whispers back on, if you want to whisper it to me whenever you're online, when I log into Twitch next, I'll check it out. Look forward to checking it out. Cool. Yeah, sorry, Heck. Like I said, it's just with OBS, I don't want to upset it by logging into my Twitch account. Yeah, I used to go to a lot of raves as well. I haven't been to any now for about 5 years, but yeah, used to be very big on going to raves. Techno was my thing back then, techno music. I want to see the video now. Not fair, guys. So do send me a link, Alan. Heck, I do want to check it out. Again, here I'm just making sure not to scale the model as I'm making these corrections to the sides of it. Yeah, I don't partake anymore either. Like I said, it's been about 5 years since I've been to a rave. Used to be a lot of fun though. I used to have a lot of fun. It was always a good night out, or a good couple of days out. I particularly like the ones that they put on in forests or fields. They were always fun, as opposed to the typical warehouse. I'm actually going to turn masking back on here. Edge masking back on. What do you do in the production side of things? Do you mean the graphics and web stuff, or music? Or you mean just the actual putting on of the festival now? Because people don't appreciate just how much work goes into actually putting any sort of music festival on. A friend of mine used to do it when he used to do raves, and it was a lot of work. It really was. Break that down. Okay, we'll paint that through, bake that down. Move my texture. Bake that down. Old school vinyl, no CDs, wow. Oh, okay. They rent the gear from you, cool, Heck. A lot of people prefer vinyl now. It's made a bit of a resurgence. People like the sound of it, as opposed to the, what do they say, the cold sound of CD. Oh, you do DJing as well. Cool. Very cool. Yeah, like I was saying, there are a lot of people like the sound of vinyl now. It's made a big comeback. Apparently, you can hear a lot more of the music in vinyl than you can in digital CDs. I'm not a great audiophile myself. I mean, I appreciate good headphones and things, but I don't do music production. But I certainly love my Sennheiser headphones, or my what's the other one called? Can't remember the name of it now. Another pair of headphones that I use when I'm out and about. Sure, I think. Sure. They sound good anyway. That's the important thing. Yeah, well, that's true. And sure, yeah. Yeah, they're great, aren't they? They really sound good. My in-ears are Sennheiser IE80s. They're really good too. They're the ones I use on my mobile phone when I'm out and about. And if I'm actually sitting down and listening to music, I'll use the Shure headphones. But I love my IE80s as well. Cool. You're in the military, Galen. Cool. And watching the fun is just as much fun. It's what I always used to enjoy when I used to go out to these raves. Sitting down, because you have quiet areas and that you can see people dancing on the dance floor in the centre of the room. It was always fun watching people, particularly with the DJ, and when the DJ would raise the beat, as they say, watch people take off. It was always a lot of fun. I'm just painting in areas here that I've stretched a bit when I did the painting on the sides. Yeah, it's fun to watch people, isn't it, heck? I do the same thing if I'm out and about just on the street, like if I'm sitting down having a coffee. I always like to watch people as they walk past. People watching is always fun. Take that down. I think being a 3D artist as well, I've learned over the years to pay attention to things that people generally don't. And that's just so that when I do my work, I do it better. But it's just surprising how many things people don't notice until you specifically go out of your way to sit down and pay attention to them. Just going to fix a couple of the textures through the middle here. I'm just rotating around the model and seeing if there's any stretching that's happened as I've been painting on. It's not looking too bad though. Now I don't really have to worry about the top and the bottom of these small columns because they're completely butting up against the banister. So again, you could texture them up if you want to be a completist, but I'm not going to do it because I'm not going to see them. So I'm going to leave one like this, which is basically clean. Well, I say clean, but without any dirt maps added to it. So let's move that out of the way. And export flattened. So we'll export everything flattened. I'm back in my rework folder. I'll star it now. We're calling these small banister columns. Yeah, that's what we called it, small banister, wasn't it? Yep. I'm just going to name this one underscore painted.tga. I'm using TGA files. We'll export that. I'm going to save this project just in case. And we'll open up Max again. I'm going to open the material editor and swap out this old texture for the new one we just painted out. Small banister columns painted, that's the one we want. Okay. Let's have a bit of a look at that now. And again, as I said, I wanted to keep it a light color, a white color, because when I texture up these outside banisters, I'm going to make them a darker color, and that'll help to make these pop a bit more. They're still a little dirty though. It looks like some lichens growing on them, which, I mean, you know, you can see the amount of water damage that we've put on into the model so far, so you can expect them to be a little bit dirty. Like I said, they're not going to be filthy like these though. And all we have to do really is create a couple of, maybe 3 variations of this and alternate them around the model. I think we may have to do these curved sections separately. We may have to paint them up separately, because I have a feeling that they're a little larger, so I think I have more columns in these than I do in these, so I can't just copy and paste the texture over. I'm going to need to paint up 2 of them individually and then just alternate them on each side, because there's 2 on either side. But all of the square sections here, we can certainly use the same UV map and the same textures all the way around. Except for this piece at the back here, which again is a much larger piece. The reason I put that larger piece in there was because I needed to keep the these columns consistent around the outside of the terrace. And I thought having a larger piece at the back here would make more sense. Also with the top, they all had to follow the curvature of the tile that sits at the top. And it just adds, again, a little bit more interest to the actual model itself if they aren't all small. It would make more sense for there to be a larger section here at the back. So we may have to do that separately. But these other ones we can certainly copy the texture after we create 2 or 3 variations. And we'll have to do these 2 individually and alternate them between either side. But I think the lighter colored texture will work quite well for us. Dirty, but not so dirty that it doesn't blend. And I think it fits in with the rest of the model, particularly once we darken up these edges, and it will help it to pop. So let's create a couple of variations on that. Let me just save the file here quickly. Once we've textured up the model, I've noticed that there are just a couple of areas that I need to fix. Things like this column here between these two front sections of the border of the wall. Because I created the columns before I created the borders. So once Max is finished saving, I'll show you what I mean. See, for instance, here, the column is, the way it's intersecting this border doesn't look natural. That's not right. Yeah, it's not quite right. So what I may end up doing is making these columns larger and bring them out over the edges of this border. And I've also noticed that these columns here, see the way they're intersecting the floor? That ain't right either. So we're probably going to end up lifting these columns up a bit. And I also want to fix this. So I'm going to look at that right now. These metal pieces I have around these spheres. A really good way to create shapes in Max if you're stuck for ideas, or even if you just want a different take on something. Using the modifiers in 3D Studio Max, like the bend modifier, twist. Let's have a look here. Bend modifier, twist modifier. Lathe is always interesting. Melt can be really interesting as well if you want to create some geometry that's unusual. Not so much push. Relax can be interesting. Ripple can be really interesting. I use skew quite a lot. At the moment, I'm going to try squeeze is really good too, or stretch. I'm going to try spherize on this, and that's just made it square. That's unfortunate. Let's see if we can move the pivot point. I'm going to go into the hierarchy tab and center the pivot to the object. A lot of these modifiers will work off of the pivot position of the model. So to get a different look, just move the pivot. Let's see if spherize will do anything for us now. Let's spherify. No, again, it's just making it more squared. Okay, well, that's fine. Let's try a different one. Sometimes I like to jump between doing texturing work and doing a bit more modeling work. Just breaks it up a bit for me. You don't feel like you're constantly texturing. Texturing is fun, but yeah, just a bit of variety sometimes is always good. Let's look at squeeze. These modifiers can really give you some interesting shapes to play with. If you're not, if you're looking for something a little different. No, not that one. You can limit the effect in a lot of these as well. So let's say we like that. Scale it up a bit. Just do a bit of a rotation around here. So we've taken something that was like that. Oh. What has Max done to me? Oh, it's just zoomed me all the way out. All right. So we've taken an object that was more like a cone, and we've transformed it into something that follows the shape, pardon me, of that sphere a little more. Let me just grab a drink here. I hate it when you get that tickle in your throat. So let's see if we can do something a bit more with this. Let's pull it out a bit more. I'm going to pull it down a bit. Pardon me. So just by playing with the modifier and scaling it, yeah, I know it's that tickle that you get in your throat. Is really annoying. It's really hard to get rid of too sometimes. I don't want to cough into the microphone and blast you guys' ears, so just by playing with one of the modifiers and then adjusting the scaling, we can create an object that's completely different from what we originally started with, which was this cone shape. I'm just going to deselect it so I can get a better look at it. And I like this shape a little better. I think it fits better with the object that's wrapped around, as opposed to the cone that we're using on the other side. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this to all of those, all of the spheres. Skittles. I haven't had Skittles in ages. Used to be M&M's for me. I used to love M&M's. All right, let's copy this over now. Let's I'm just going to delete the one here that we've got, and we will copy this one over. I'm also going to copy them up to the top here. And I put them around the spheres just to add a bit more interest, because I thought the sphere was a little ordinary on its own, looked a little boring. Select that one and delete it, and I've lost my other one. Let me just pull out my object list here. Okay, it's called middle sphere, so that's it right there. Let's go into the front viewport here and pull it up into position. Move it over. I'm going to pull it down a bit, like that. I'll jump back into the top viewport so I can line it up with the sphere underneath. I really wish I could turn DirectX 11 back on. I really don't like it when Max makes all of my objects wireframe like that. It doesn't happen so much in DirectX 11 mode, but because I'm working in DirectX 9, the same with the shadow problems that you're seeing, that's because of DirectX 9. But it was crashing Max when I was using version 11 because of the NVIDIA driver, so I don't want to risk it again. Okay, it should be right. Let's just copy it over to the other side, I think. Just going to grab the old one here and delete it. And copy the new one over. Okay. That just gives it a bit more visual interest, as opposed to just having those spheres there on their own. We can come back to them at a later date and look at it again, but I think what I might do though with these ones is just pull them up a little. I think they're a little too low. Still a bit too low. And it looks like I moved them out of position, so that one, that one. Just going to check them in the top viewport here. Okay. Now I've pulled this one out of position. Jump into the side where I can see it a little better. On top. Okay. I have to say though, with Max version 17, I do like the way that it highlights objects now. It was always quite difficult when you worked with older versions of Max to see exactly what you were selecting, but with this new version it's improved quite a lot. Okay. Zoom that back out a bit. Zoom you back out a bit. That's just for my housekeeping so I can see what I've been working on. A lot of people will just tend to work in the one viewport, and I'll do that too. Like if I want to just work in with one viewport expanded. But I tend to like to work in top, front and side. This is the left here. Gives you a good overview of the model. I've noticed with Eon View when I use that program, it's not laid out as well as you can get it in a 3D program. It still has the 4 viewports, but you can't rearrange them, which is annoying. Still a great program. I love using Eon View, but yeah, I just wish it was a little bit more configurable. Very odd the way Max is doing that. I may just check on my scaling as well. When it comes time for me to grow the vines on these statues and on the walls, you have to make sure that with the plugin that I use that the scaling is correct. So we will double check that when it comes time for me to do that part of the model, or to use that plugin. I think once we texture up the rest of those banisters, though, it should start to come together. We don't have a lot left to do. As I said, the banisters, the small columns, the banister outside, and then I'm going to pull in another couple of angel statues. I've already created those. I'll do that at the end, and then grow the ivy on them, the flowering ivy, and then we can export it and bring it into Eon View and create an environment for it before we do a render, and then maybe do just some quick color correction in Photoshop. All right. So let's save our file here, just to be on the safe side. And we'll jump back into Mari and make sure we've saved that file as well. Okay. So we can do a couple of variations on this. This is our base one. All right. Lord of the Rings. I don't recall that scene in the Lord of the Rings, Galen, where the skulls are coming out of the walls. Is that the ghost scene where they're going through that ghost city or whatever? The entrance to that? That's the only time I can recall seeing skulls in the Lord of the Rings. The Return of the King one, I think. Great movies too, by the way. Great story. He did the story justice. The movies were great. I liked what he did with the story. He didn't use the complete story from the Lord of the Rings, though. He cut a few things out, but as a director, I guess he's entitled to do that. And of course, it was made in New Zealand. Again, I'm just going to do a quick save. Yeah, no, the story is great. Well, it's a classic, really, Lord of the Rings. And I think he did a good job with the movie. I mean, it was well done. It was nicely done. Entertaining. Acting was good. Yeah, very long movies. Breaking each 3 movies to begin with, and then breaking them. The actual movies themselves were quite long. But good. Enjoyable. I mean, I think I own them all on Blu-ray, including The Hobbit. The dragon in The Hobbit was great. All right. I actually think we may leave it there for today, guys. sorry about the start of the stream having those few problems with OBS, but that all seems to be fixed now. So fingers crossed. Next time I stream, it'll all be cool. I really appreciate you guys being here and chatting with me in the chat. That's always great. I always appreciate that, and I appreciate you guys watching the stream, and also following my Twitch channel. That's great as well. I'll be back on again on Monday next week. That's Monday US time at 5 p.m., 4 p.m. now that daylight savings is finished in the US. That's 11 a.m. in Australia and 12 a.m. in the UK. Thank you guys for being here and hanging out with me, chatting. I'll post to my Twitter page 15 minutes before I go live, so if you want a reminder, just keep an eye on my Twitter page at PhilDoes3D. Yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for hanging around. Thanks for watching the stream. Thanks for being here. I'll see you again, hopefully, Monday next week. See you guys.